Welcome to today's conversation,
where we explore the impact of the dual pandemics
while we anchor in on the power of our communities rising together. Hello, my name is Raul Medrano. I'm a founder and president of Café Medrano. We are a organic importer of organic coffee from our family in Honduras, and we're based here in Washington, D.C., metropolitan area.
Hi, my name is Toni-Rose Bioc. I'm calling in from Washington, D.C., and I am the co-owner and operations manager of Vanilla Mart located in Beltsville, Maryland.
During COVID, March 2020, we were actually gearing up for the farmers market season here at the University of the District of Columbia. So we still maintained a farmers market presence, as did the university. And that was a unique experience, to say the least, when you had to be 6 feet apart. Everything had to be very sanitized and all of that. And so it did impact us, but I think for the good. Overall, a lot of the people were looking for outdoor spaces to go to. They felt safe being outdoors.
Operating through COVID-19 continues to affect me in my work and how I show up for my team. The problems have changed throughout the pandemic as it's been unfolding, and it's still going. It's been pretty challenging physically and mentally on me. At the start of COVID, we actually were in the process of going through a renovation, which was supposed to take 2 months, but it ended up taking 6 months. And on top of that, my employees had no severance. We lost a few of our veteran full-time staff because they found other jobs or were fearful of being frontline employees. Staffing issues has always been difficult, but specifically through the pandemic, I think it's been really tough for employers to just have stability and maintain retention. You know, it required a lot of understanding and flexibility. We had to get comfortable with just like the uncertainty of what the day would bring.
I think it was a positive experience in raising the awareness of how important hospitality industry, food operators are, and also in supporting local businesses. You know, with some of the changes that came about in the industry, all of a sudden now a person that's delivering your food to your door is welcomed in a whole different way. It's raised, I think, the standards and the acceptance of these types of services. It's impacted everybody, some positive and some negative. There's always going to be a little bit of both.
In my perspective, I've always considered healthcare workers to be essential, period. Oddly enough, I never reflected on how a grocery store or restaurant or utility staff are essential workers too. To me, essential work is work that society, at the bare minimum, needs in place to help maintain order and function. I have noticed that there has been a shift in society's perception of being an essential worker, in that there has been more awareness and question of, am I being valued, brought to our attention.
Yet over a period of time, they were like, well, shoot, they're sending us into the crossfires here. I don't feel that essential. I don't feel that protected. If anything, I'm putting myself out on a limb just because some people want to come here and buy groceries and putting me at risk. For those that had to go in and work and didn't have the luxury of working from home or working on a Zoom platform like I'd have, you know, it was rough for them.
I've become more self-aware of any personal biases I may have, especially when it comes to equal opportunity, specifically in the workplace. I'm learning and actively developing that muscle of keeping an open mind when having conversations and learning to listen first and not bring unconscious biases into the room with me. These kinds of things can be damaging when it comes to trying to foster and model an environment that wants to give equal opportunity. I listen to audiobooks and podcasts to continue to build awareness and educate myself on these topics on my commute to work.
At the UDC Farmers Market, the University of the District of Columbia is a historically Black college and university. It's an HBCU, the School of Agriculture, along with the National Latino Farmers and Ranchers Association, which I'm a board member of and a member of. Pride ourselves in that diversity that we have with our vendors, with the audience that we're looking to attract and serve. When we would do events, I remember an incident where there was a kid that pulled up this full carrot from one of our producers, right off the table area, right? And this kid was in awe. He had never seen an actual carrot. That was a full experience for him. So that was nice to see that. Sometimes in families that live in urban areas, you don't really maybe have a big yard or an area for you to grow things. And so, being exposed to agriculture, to nature, and that type of thing is always a positive thing. When I went to Honduras with my mom at the age of 21, for the very first time in my life where I ever traveled outside of the United States, is when I first encountered identity. Being born here in the United States, but having this dual identity. I have my Honduran heritage from my parents' side. It was very helpful for me as I was in college to have a center as to my identity and my place in this world. And so hence I made a very intentional decision in my life to be very much bilingual, bicultural. Hence that the first 15 years of my professional career, I was in Spanish language media locally. I worked in a newspaper, Telemundo, Spanish language radio. I worked for the Spanish news agency, La Agencia F. It kept me connected with Honduras and the family to just continue developing that way.
When I first started, going to the market, I understood was a responsibility of a business owner in my dad's eyes. I went with him when I was in my childhood, but the work is still the same. Where you go to these markets, you place your order, you fill your truck up with the cases of boxes that are usually meats and produce, which are and there's usually help at the loading dock, usually males. But just like my father, I didn't want to stand around and watch as the truck was loaded, because the sooner the truck was loaded, the sooner I could be on my way. Every single time, never fails. The male that would help me would have something to mention about me lifting the heavy boxes and loading them into the car. Comments that I never heard when I would go with my father. I think it's different when you're a female of my size, I guess, as well, going to lift these heavy boxes, and your capabilities often get questioned, or there's a different worry when somebody sees you versus what their expectation is of a person who should be doing this type of job. So February of 2021, 4 Asian-owned businesses in Howard County were broken into and vandalized. It was around the time of Lunar New Year, and it was no doubt that it was an incident of a hate crime against Asian Americans, which had been surging around the country at that time. This happened really close to home, so it was really heartbreaking to see this happen in the community. Putting value on learning from everyday people's stories and lived experiences, finding a way to put structure behind this and encouraging having conversation around these topics, I believe would make an impactful difference in developing important interpersonal skills such as empathy, emotional intelligence, and communication, just to name a few.
I think there's going to have to be more of an element of empowerment through personal development in that aspect, training in the different skill sets that they're going to need, professional development, more community forums. The conversation and the dialogue is important, where we learn to listen to one another.
It's taken many forms, but I've been really just worrying about things that are actually in my control for the now. I've developed an interest in personal development and psychology, which has really made a difference in how I communicate and show up at work and in my personal life.
I'm always about recharging and giving out new energy. But on a more personalized level, we lost 3 family members in my family during COVID. And so, due to COVID, we weren't really able to embrace and to gather and to rally as we normally do. You're talking about a Latino family that was used to meeting at least once a month. So, become closer in a different way with family members in a more intimate way, a more intentional way, and maybe not waiting till the next family reunion because they've been few and far in between, but just picking up the phone and calling. And hey, how are you doing? Just checking in. And Zoom was key for that as well. Zoom has been good. We've done family Zoom gatherings and meetings. I mean, we were able to, actually more people were probably able to join than normally. We saw technology in that sense used in a very constructive and positive way.
In the workplace specifically, empowering the people I work with, especially my women coworkers, to embrace their leadership abilities and encourage them to not stray away from holding themselves to a high standard or leaning into having hard conversations. Being able to identify unconscious biases, how to identify discrimination or harassment, how to intervene as a bystander in a situation, or what to do if something were to happen to you personally. These moments of discomfort, discussing hard topics or having hard conversations are often the teaching moments I find stick.
Me becoming more of an advocate for equity and representation as I became more involved with the National Latino Farmers and Ranchers Association, thanks to my good friend and mentor, Rudy Arredondo, who's the president of the association, who I've known for more than 20 years. He's a pupil of Cesar Chavez. He's good friends with Dolores Huerta, and all of the civil rights activism, and especially in the migrant farming communities. Rudy is a part of that. That's part of his identity and who he is. And he invited me into the fold. And I think this year we were able to get a cooperative agreement contract through USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, which has been very helpful, obviously, in providing resources for us to do outreach, training, and capacity building with the farmers and ranching community nationally, not just here in the DMV area, of course. Takeaways that I'm looking at, one of them, patience. This whole situation has allowed everybody, in a sense, a time to just step back and just listen, process, meditate, and reflect. I think also maintaining the humanity of it all.
There needs to be more value put on developing interpersonal skills in the educational system. There's a lesson we can learn through the lived experiences of others. I believe that when we rise together, we will empower others to find the courage to listen, learn, and believe in our story, even if it doesn't match their own experience.
I believe that when we rise together in the collective as a community or communities, I think we will all be empowered more positively. We will be more whole as a community and as individuals. As I always say, and I always like the saying of it takes a village, and it really does. It's not cliche, but it really does take a village. Everybody has a role. Everybody has a say. Everybody has something to contribute, in that regard. By embracing that, we do rise together in the collective. So I just wanted to end with that too as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity.